Welcome back to a very special clip of Pleb Underground, and we are going to discuss. Unfortunately, a very difficult situation that happened to a fellow Bitcoiner, a friend, and Pleb. And yeah, get ready, guys. It's a special clip, and it may just rock your world a little bit. So here we go. Let's dive into it. Joining me today is fellow Bitcoiner and Pleb, Hugo Ramos or Ramos. How do I pronounce your last name?
Actually, the pronouncing is Ramos.
Ramos. Okay.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm used to the English accent. The English accent of my name is always a bit more rounded.
You're used to getting it. You're used to us getting it all wrong. So
yeah, usually people that speak English they call me Hugo Ramos. So it's okay like that. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So Hugo has a very interesting story. I met Hugo quite a few years ago. I believe when I was still on Simply Bitcoin, and we hit it off. And essentially Hugo, originally from Portugal, moved out to El Salvador. I'm assuming for the Bitcoin journey, and unfortunately, then this is what we're going to dive into. Unfortunately, you had a situation that happened approximately a week ago, December 6th, I guess. And yeah, we're going to go through the whole story. So anyways, I'll stop ruining it for everyone. Hugo, why don't you tell us what exactly happened? And I guess first we'll start off with what services were you attempting to provide in El Salvador? We'll start with that.
Okay, so in 2022, me and my wife decided to visit El Salvador after the Bitcoin law and all that. So I'm just going to give you a very short introduction of why I'm here. We decided to visit because of the Bitcoin law, of course, and because everyone was talking about El Salvador. And we came here, spent a few weeks here, spending holidays in El Sonte, and decided later when we got home, we decided that this would be a very nice opportunity to, change our lives and move to El Salvador and, live the dream, the Bitcoin dream and the, Bitcoin country, freedom country, all that. So we decided and we came here in October 2022. So it's 1 month and a few weeks already since we are living in El Salvador. And the plan was, of course, to move here and living the Bitcoin dream, buying some piece of land, build our own house. And then the idea was forming already in our minds to use the same piece of land, not just for us, but also to accommodate other people that would like to come here and didn't know anything about the country, didn't know how to get the residency. So the idea was to build like a citadel, a Bitcoin citadel in that piece of land, and where people could also join us and live there. Getting the residency would be also a service that we could provide to those people because we know already how to do it for ourselves. And so it would be easier to accommodate all those people that want to come here. This would be like a landing spot, for people that don't know anything about the country, don't know the legal things they have to go through to ask for residency and all that. So the idea was to make this project and having some people joining us also. So we have been here for 1 year. There's been many things that we had to do so far to build that project, that idea. And then just a week ago, this happened. So we were in the process of getting everything done. And on the 6th of December, in the morning, not really in the morning, a bit later, because I work till late, so I never wake up very early, but I usually work during the night. So I woke up and I saw that my Lightning node was getting completely drained. At first, I did not understand what was happening, so I contacted immediately Dartcoin, which is a good friend, who is a good friend, and he told me, at first, when I told him what was happening, he just said, "Oh man, someone is making some payments. That's nothing."
It's all good.
It's all good when you don't know what's happening. That's your first assumption, right? But then I was getting really worried, so I was talking to him, and I was watching my node being drained in real time in front of me, and I said no. At some point, I decided, no, let's shut down the Lightning node and try to evaluate what's happening. By then, the node had like 4+ Bitcoins there for liquidity. And by the time that I got to see the first at the node, when I just came down here and came to my computer, this was already less than 1 Bitcoin. Was about, I don't remember exactly, but it should be like 60 million sats or something, or 50 million sats. So about half a Bitcoin was still there. Finally, Dartcoin also said, well, maybe it's better if you shut down the node and try to evaluate what's happening. I asked him, do you know about any exploit that was discovered recently, about any bug, something that could happen? I don't know. And he said, no, nothing. No one told me anything in the community. So no one had any idea what was really happening. I did not even know that the problem was not with the node, but with BTC Pay server, which was connected to that node. And so basically I shut down the node, and then I started my investigation. And then I came to find out everything that happened, which I published on Stacker News, and I'm sure you read it. And so that's the beginning of the story, basically.
We're going to put a link to the Stacker News article so everybody can check it out. And now I just want to go back. So your node, what software does it run? Obviously, you mentioned BTC Pay server, but then there was another, an LN API that, if I understood correctly, that people were using.
Yeah. So regarding what I had installed, I have my Bitcoin Core node as anyone, and then I have it all separated in different virtual machines on my physical server. So I had a virtual machine just for the LND, which is the Lightning node itself. And then I had a different VM with BTC Pay server, which is a payment processor. And so what I did was I shut down the virtual machine that had the node, the LND node. But after some time, I realized that it was not the node itself. It was BTC Pay server that had a bug on one of the extensions, and they were using that bug to exploit payments going out of the nodes, and like they were paying their own invoices to get the sats out of the node. So basically what I found out was, so the versions, I have LND running, and this was version 17. So version 17 of LND. And then connected to LND, I have also LNbits, but this is on the same virtual machine. So LNbits is running on the same machine as LND, but LNbits didn't have any problem. I checked also, no bugs, no exploits, nothing. The accounts were there, the balances were there correctly, and no records were on the database about any transactions going out of LNbits. So I put that aside, and I understood that this was not a problem with LNbits. And then I have BTC Pay server, which was version 1.11.1 on a different virtual machine. And that BTC Pay server was running an extension which is called LN Bank. And what that extension on BTC Pay server allows is for you to create layer 3 wallets on top of your node, right? So if you don't use that extension, you cannot receive or send any sats using Lightning. So I had to use it.
So who would be, and thank you for explaining that, who would be most likely to be creating these types of wallets, right? Through LN Bank? Like, would that be a merchant? Or
merchant, friends, family and friends, people that want to make, for example, the very simplest use case is when you have a button on your web page, you have a personal web page and you want to have a button for people to donate some sats to you. And this is one of the use cases, for example, the simplest one. And BTC Pay server allows you to put your button, donate some sats, and create an invoice and allow people to send you some sats as a tip or something like that. The most complicated use case is, of course, you can connect your BTC Pay server to your e-commerce. If you have an online shop and you want to sell your products or services, and BTC Pay server allows you to connect to, for example, WooCommerce, which is a very known platform, and you can sell your products using the BTC Pay server as a payment processor, which generates the invoices for your Lightning payment and then receives the sats that people want to send you to buy the product. So it allows you a very different, a wide range of possibilities that are all related to invoicing and Lightning payments from A to B or from B to A. So that's what's the purpose of BTC Pay server, and the extension is to deal with the Lightning side of the payments, right? So LN Bank, which is the name of the extension, deals with all that has to do with Lightning. Because if you install BTC Pay server without the extension, you can only receive payments on layer 1.
Ah, okay. Okay. So just to be clear, right, for the listeners, so BTC Pay server itself at its core is not it's not a vulnerability with BTC Pay server specifically. It's specifically a vulnerability with the LN Bank extension connecting to BTC Pay server. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's go back. Let's go back to December 6th, because this is the part of it that really, if I understood correctly. So you said they were okay. So I'm sorry, I'm confused by this.
No worries.
Because I saw that I saw that at one point you documented that there were like 5 accounts that were created on the BTC Pay server. So I guess so let's say I'm a merchant and I want to use your service. Like, would I contact you to create the account? Would I just be logging in and creating it myself?
Both possibilities are.
Sorry.
Yeah, both possibilities are viable. So if you run a BTC Pay server and you want to make it private, you don't allow anyone to register themselves. And obviously people have to contact you and ask you for an account on your BTC Pay server. Or there's another possibility. You have this possibility on the settings of the BTC Pay server, which is to allow people to register themselves. So, and create an account. And this was what I was running because I wanted to, I have a podcast also. I have many people that know me in Brazil and in Portugal. Basically, I am known in the Portuguese speaking Bitcoin community. And many people were going to use the BTC Pay server to allow them to run their businesses or to sell online products. So the purpose of leaving the BTC Pay server open to the public was to exactly having those people that know me being able to use the BTC Pay server in their simplest case, which is to receive tips on a website. Or I had also at least 1 or 2 people from Brazil that were already using the BTC Pay server together with WooCommerce to sell their products. So I left it open to the public so that people could register themselves and use it for their own use case, whatever that might be, but for the community. So I was running a BTC Pay server for the community to help everyone to, onboard people into Bitcoin. And that was the goal, that was the purpose. So I had all this work installing BTC Pay server and trying to make it as safe as possible, even leaving it open to the public, register themselves and create accounts, but at least trying to be the most secure. And for people to onboard into Bitcoin and start to use invoices, Lightning invoices in their businesses. So this was the purpose. Of course, I had like 12 accounts already there, but the most complicated use case, which is to connect BTC Pay server to an online shop like WooCommerce, I think this was being used by only 2 of those accounts, and the rest of the people there were using it to connect to Supersats, which is a platform that allows you to receive tips when you're having live podcasts on YouTube, and some other people were using it just to receive tips on their website. So very simple use cases, nothing very complicated.
Okay. Thank you very much for explaining that, by the way. Okay, so, and just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, so I'm assuming the attacker obviously created, did they just create 1 account or they created multiple accounts?
Five
all 5 of those were from the attacker. And then, so was the attacker essentially generating invoices and paying them to themselves, kind of thing? So generating invoices, which was draining your liquidity, and then paying the invoice to himself.
Exactly. So what they did was they created 5 accounts.
Yeah.
And they also were using a Lightning wallet, which is called BitLiFi, and it's
Yeah, I'd
from a
never heard of that
company.
before you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's from a company in Czech Republic in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And as it seems, because I spoke to them yesterday, so just a short update to my post on Stacker News.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I had a video call with the guys at in Czech Republic, the guys from BitLiFi, and they told me that they only used a phone number, which, by the way, is a USA phone number. It starts with +1. So it's a USA phone number, a mobile number, and probably this is a burn phone. So it would be very difficult to trace the people that were using that wallet, that specific wallet, to receive the payments. So what they did was they installed an app, which is BitLiFi, a Lightning wallet. They created invoices. Of course, this was done not manually because I have the registration, all the records on the database, and this was like
A script?
hundreds of connections simultaneously every second. So this was a script.
Yeah.
And what they did was they created the invoices, and then using the LN Bank extension on BTC Pay server, they pay themselves those invoices to drain all the sats from the node. And the vulnerability, the exploit itself, I analyzed the code already. So yesterday I was analyzing the code with some friends. I used to be a developer, but I don't code anymore for several years. But I still have good friends in the developing software development community, and they also analyzed it with me. And they said this was a very basic mistake on the LN Bank extension, which was not checking for balance, or sorry, it was making the payments without waiting for the validation of the balance. So basically, when you make a call to make a payment on BTC Pay server, the first thing the software does is to check for balance availability and then make the payment. But as they were doing this several times per second, the validation of the balance was never actually being done, and the payments were going out. So there was not, it was not implemented in the code, which is now with the patch that was introduced to the code. Before you have several waits on the code until the validation of the balance is made before you can actually make the payment. So this was a very basic mistake, right, on LN Bank. So, but anyway, I used the code, so I did not check the code before using it.
Yeah, I mean, so this is good. I saw a bunch of comments in the in your article, in your description of what happened, and people saying like, it's, well, Bitcoin is about verifying and not trusting. Okay, so look, right, obviously that to a certain extent that's true, but not to be a dick, that is totally fucking unhelpful. Like, to sit there and tell you that, like, to me the whole like the whole like kicking you while you're down thing because you tried to use the software that they wanted you to use to help build out commerce.
And not just that, it's the most commonly used software for Bitcoin payment processor.
Yeah.
So everyone knows BTC Pay server. Probably not everyone is using this extension, but it's a very well-known software in the world of Bitcoin. So, I had no reason to doubt that the software had this bug or this exploit. So,
yeah, it's like that. That's.
And by the way, I was the first one. So I was the one that using Dartcoin help. I was the one that contacted the BTC Pay server team and warned them about the bug on the 6th of December. And on the 8th of December, last Friday, they finally announced the bug to the public, and they said that they had a patch already and people should upgrade all their extensions on their BTC Pay server. So I am not 100% sure of this, but I believe I was the first one to inform the team at BTC Pay server that this was happening. And I actually had one of them talk to me, so I don't want to point fingers to anyone. Many people tried to help, and they are still helping so far. Pavlanex, which is one of the BTC Pay server core developers, he spoke to me on Telegram, and he tried to help contacting also the exchange in Czech Republic. So there's been a lot of people involved in this, and as a status update, the guys at the exchange in Czech Republic, they are trying to help. We had a video call yesterday, and Pavlinex from BTC Pay Server also trying to help, talking directly to the CEO of this exchange that has the node, the Lightning node where the funds were received. So the only thing I have to regret, and I'm not blaming anyone, or I'm not pointing fingers, but the only thing I have to regret about all this is that the actual developer of LN Bank, the extension, I commented on his post on Noster last Friday when he announced that there was a bug and everyone should update to the new version. And I made a comment, and I did not even get an apology until today. Not even one word from the person that actually wrote the code of that extension. And I would very much like, I know that people cannot just get my funds back, but at least, look, man, sorry. Okay, sorry for that. It was my mistake. And, you know, anything like this would be very, very appreciated in a moment when you lose 4 Bitcoins. So I would just like to point out that I never got any apology or any, you know, one single word from the guy that made the code, that actually made the code.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you know,
it's not his fault. I was a developer too, man. I was a developer. I made many bugs in my life, but it's just like,
it's the principle.
Sorry, man.
It's the
That's
principle,
it. Sorry.
Right? We're humans. Like, at least, right? Yeah. It's like he should own up to it and be like, look, I'm really sorry about that, and we learned an important lesson, and at the very least, validate and be support. I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying, to him, like he should have at least validated your situation and been supportive, and been supportive towards you. Like that's at the very least, right? But instead, this ends up leaving kind of like a bad taste in your mouth, So I want to go back though to the exchange, because in your post, I thought you said something very interesting. So that exchange is a KYC exchange, right?
Yeah. Well, they explained something
supposedly.
To me. Yeah. So yeah, at first
you had some choice words about the KYC stuff, right? I'm sorry, continue, explain.
No, I just found out something when I was doing my investigation. So basically there's a group which is 21M. Then that group owns an exchange, owns the software company that makes the Lightning wallet, and also owns the Lightning node that is obviously connected to the Lightning wallet of their own. So they have the complete ecosystem, they have the node, and they developed an app to use with that node, which is Bitly. So what they explained to me is that although we are all in the same group, the KYC rules apply only to the exchange and not to the app that you use on Lightning. So basically, if you want to use the exchange to trade Bitcoin by fiat or fiat into Bitcoin, you have to register yourself, provide all your documentation and all that. But if you want to use only the Bitly app to use Lightning on your phone, you only need to provide a phone number. So it's not KYC.
Interesting.
So only for money transactions that include fiat, then you have to KYC in the exchange. But if you only use the app, that's it. You just need to provide a phone number and everyone can use the app.
Okay. So that's where the that's where the KYC goes away.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically KYC is made for protection of the fiat world.
Who would have thought? Huh? Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought?
And it doesn't even work there, and it doesn't even work there properly. Okay, so I mean, obviously, right at this point, I saw, at the bottom of the article, you did provide a BTC address for for people who who would like to help, and everything like that. So.
Basically, let me just explain why. I'm not trying to, I'm not, I don't even know how to explain this in English.
I know.
I'm not trying to look like a beggar,
donations. Yeah.
I'm just saying that when we came here to El Salvador, we had this dream, we had this project, and basically the Bitcoin that was, the Bitcoin that was in that node was destined to be the Bitcoin to be used in starting this project. So everything is gone. And it's real, people, 4 Bitcoins, okay? This happens. And I've been into Bitcoin since 2016. So I know perfectly well with what's a layer 1 wallet, what's a Lightning wallet. I know perfectly well that having Bitcoin in a Lightning node is like having it on a hot wallet, but this was not the problem. I did not get hacked in my node.
No,
The hackers used an exploit in a different platform to get access to the node. So it's a completely different story. I know the differences between all that. But the problem is this actually happens, and people always think this will not happen to me. And in this case, 4 Bitcoins were stolen. 4 Bitcoins, not 400 sats, not 4 million sats, 400 million sats, which is 4 Bitcoins, okay? So this happens, and you should be very careful if you are running a Lightning node with different platforms connected to it. But basically, this was the Bitcoin that was going to be used in the project that we had for El Salvador, and that project is now stopped because I don't have the funds to start it. So that's the only reason. I told many people that this would be built in 2024. Many people from Brazil, from Portugal, they're already interested in coming here and see it with their own eyes, or even move here if they need to move out from their countries. And this is happening a lot in Brazil because it's becoming a dictatorship there. So many people in the community of the Portuguese-speaking Bitcoin community, they are looking forward to move here to El Salvador, and now the project is stopped. And so that's why I decided to put the Bitcoin address in the Stacker News article, so that if you want to help at least to recover part of the funds that were meant to be used for that project, you can help by donating whatever you can. I mean, I don't want people to get hurt by donating, so anyone can donate whatever they can. And probably if enough people help, probably the project can go forward, and let's see what happens. But it was 4 Bitcoins, so it was a big blow to me, to my wife, to the project. 4 Bitcoins is a lot of money today, and it's really hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I honestly, I can only imagine. To your point, people think it's not going to happen to them. I cover a lot of these types of stories specifically because, right, like it affects real humans, and people just always, like you said, they seem to think it's not going to happen to them. But and this is something I've said ever since I was like 17 years old. Everything happens to everyone. Okay, it's not that we are special and somehow it's somehow different. Look, you just said it. You were in Bitcoin since 2016, and in all fairness, right? In all fairness to you, I remember when I first got into Lightning, and I was completely reckless at one point. I had I don't even remember. For me, this was a lot. Okay, like I'm not trying to compare it to what you had, but I had like 86% of a Bitcoin in Lightning, and at that time, that was everything. You know what I mean? And I didn't even think about it. And again, like I'm not trying to scare people off from Lightning. I know you're not trying to scare people off from Lightning. What we're trying to do is expose that this type of thing happens, and people need to pay attention. And on that note, I want to go back to what you said about December 6th when you realized. So just out of curiosity, like approximately how long did it take for the attacker to drain everything, or to like leave you with, like, I guess it's a 2-part question. That half a Bitcoin that was that left behind by the attacker kind of thing, or was that there because you shut off your node in time?
No, I shut off my node in time. Otherwise, I would be 100% drained.
Gone.
Yeah. But the attack itself lasted around 6 hours. And of course, when I first came to my computer after I woke up, and then I took some time to realize what was happening. So it was not immediately when I got to my computer that I shut down the server. Of course, I was talking to Dartcoin, and I was trying to understand what was happening, because it looks like a regular payment.
Yeah.
Someone that has an account on LNBits or BTC Pay server just making a payment, right? So you don't know what's happening. But when you look at the balance, the total balance of your server, which was 400 plus million sats, and when you come down and you get to your computer and it's around 60 or 80 million sats by that period, So man, it's
Are you
completely
kidding me?
fucked up, and I didn't know what was happening. So it took me a long time to understand. Okay, I'm being exploited, so I have to shut down the server. But basically, so the question was, sorry, when I looked at the computer, I had already been drained almost everything.
Okay.
So
that's what I was trying to figure out, whether you stopped it because you shut down the node, or the attacker just kind of left you with half a BTC as like a, you know.
No. They were draining. Actually, I have records on the database of transactions trying to be completed that were never completed as soon as I disconnected the Lightning node. So basically, the attack itself lasted around 6 hours. I'm not really sure because I have to look at the records, but this was around 6 hours. And when I came down and started to understand what was happening, and after some time, actually, I concluded I should disconnect the Lightning node. I was left with 36 million sats, which is 0.3 Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah.
From the initial 4.5 or 4.6 Bitcoins I had on the node.
God. Man, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I really do. Unfortunately, we do have a hard stop on this. But before we, before we close out, I guess, what's our takeaway, right? I mean, for me, I would just say, guys, Lightning has come a long way from when it first started, and this is not a problem in LND or anything like that, but just to say, this stuff is still reckless, okay? And that does not absolve any programmer or anything like that, or point the finger to say, Hugo, you made a huge mistake. Victim blaming does not help, right? Like victim blaming,
you know what people told me?
Does not help at all.
You know what a lot of people told me? How can you leave 4+ Bitcoins on a Lightning node?
The merchants.
And I say, man, I didn't have many merchants. As I said before, I had like 10 or 12 accounts in my BTC Pay server because this was installed just a few months ago. And people were starting to, get into the idea of using a Bitcoin payment processor. But what I was trying to build was a community of people that could use this BTC Pay server for free, and use it on their services and online shops. So of course I needed the liquidity, but this was not there all the time. I had the Lightning node. I had the BTC Pay server for a few months already, but my Lightning node was online almost for 2 years already. When I started this Lightning node, I started it with 1 Bitcoin. And because I didn't know much about Lightning, and over time, and having the goals that I have in mind, of course, over time, I was increasing the liquidity. So to the point where it reached, and not only by me, but also by the Lightning fees that the node was, of course, getting from transactions. So this all increased the node's liquidity. And this was done over time. And when I was absolutely sure that the node itself was very, very secure, I did not have BTC Pay server by then. So I was increasing the liquidity to get to a point where I could actually use my node to help onboard people, which I decided to do only 3-4 months ago. I don't remember exactly. This was during the summer. So, of course, I know that Lightning nodes are hot wallets, but this was done over time when I was absolutely sure that the node was secure. And only because I installed BTC Pay server and the LN Bank extension, this happened, because the node itself never had a problem. So I want people to understand that this was with a purpose. I was trying to make something for the Bitcoin community, and that's why I was increasing my liquidity over time, over those almost 2 years. So it's not reckless to have 5 Bitcoins in a node that you run for 2 years and it's secure, at least minimal security, when you have nodes like Bitfinex that have more than 1,000 Bitcoins. So, man.
No, I definitely I definitely get it, and I just want to clarify, right? Like it's the issue again is with the LN Bank extension connected to the BTC Pay server, So that I think that I do think that is very specific, so that people, because there are people who are running a BTC Pay server without using any of those extensions, and they are not vulnerable to to that specific attack. Now, before we close out, I also I noticed that there was also a comment which I kind of thought was also not helpful about how, you know, you should have had your software up to date. So
Yeah.
this is kind of a hypocritical thing to say in Bitcoin, because you have people who literally haven't upgraded their Bitcoin Core software for like 8 years and always talk about backwards compatibility. Now, granted, I understand that that's Bitcoin Core, but I think it's very, I feel that sometimes these types of comments, man, they come out from people who are afraid, right? They're thinking of their own situation, and so by minimizing what happened to you, it brings their anxiety down. You know what I mean? That it's I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I love to analyze all of our natures. I love to analyze human nature, and I think that's what it is.
I can give you an answer about that in a minute. So as I said before, I came from all my life when I used to work in the fiat life. I used to be a developer many years ago, around 2000 to 2014 or 2015. I don't remember exactly. But for a long period, I was a developer. And call me old school, call me what you want. But when I started to code around, well, my first coding was in the 90s, but I mean professionally. When I started to code professionally, which was around 99, 2000, there were different philosophies about upgrading your software. There's a philosophy that says you should always run the latest version because it's more secure, and so on and so on and so on. But there is also another philosophy, which is never upgrade until the new version is completely tested by the community and is proven that has no new bugs.
That's right. and yes.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. I will just.
To your point, I never wrote code, but I was a tier 3 technical support person that worked directly with engineering. And I can tell you this, right? When customers would go to upgrade their software, the first thing they would ask is, have any of the major customers already installed this, and what problems have they found? So,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because first adopters, what is it? Early adopters will be punished severely. Anyways, I'm sorry, Hugo, continue.
Yeah, so just to finish about this, the software version thing. So what I decided to do, being this a node with so much liquidity and using two different platforms connected to it, LNbits and BTC Pay Server, I decided that I would not run the latest versions when I have in place a version that no one says has a bug and it's working perfectly. So I will wait until, like, if a version comes out, I will wait like 2, 3, 4 months. Everyone is using that extension or that new version of the platform. No one is complaining about any real security bugs or really extreme security bugs. Then I will upgrade. Okay, so this was my philosophy, to not run the latest versions on a node that has almost 5 Bitcoins. Okay, because you never know when you install, when you make your upgrade, when you do your upgrade to your software, you never know if it has a new bug that no one knows about. So I decided to keep the stable version that I know it works, I know it was never hacked, and then after a few months or 2 or 3 months time, when everyone has used the new version, then I will upgrade to the new version. So that's the reason why I was not running the latest version, okay? That's the only reason. That's the only reason, because I wanted it to be secure.
That's not a bad practice. I mean, that's a good practice. There's nothing. I worked with mission critical software that gets installed in government facilities and stuff like that. They don't think any differently than you do, right? They don't want to be the first person to upgrade and find out that they just unleashed this massive freaking vulnerability into their system. So
exactly.
Yeah. So look, guys.
Man, there's a reason. I don't like the fiat world, but this is a good example. Phil, there's a reason why banks still use COBOL.
Yep.
Right?
I can't disagree with it.
Because it works.
Code, but it just works.
It just works and it's stable. So don't touch it.
And you see, this kind of goes back to the point that why so many shitcoiners, I don't want to make it about them because most of my clips are about the shitcoiners, but this is why they don't understand Bitcoin's simplicity is. Like, this is a feature, not a bug. It needs to work. Anyways,
Exactly.
so look, we're gonna have a link. And first, thank you very much, for coming on the show and to discuss this. I know that it can't be easy. I don't even know how I would feel. So honestly, man, my heart goes out to you. And we're gonna put a link to your article in the show notes. If people want to donate, that information is going to be in that Stacker News article at the bottom of it. And guys, this is gonna wrap up the clip for today from Pleb Underground. And don't forget, Full Throttle HODL, recent sponsor of the show, has decided to remind you all to go fuck yourself and make sure you stay sovereign, right? You want to stay sovereign, and you want to make sure you hold the keys to your coin. And I guess we also don't want to be reckless. Anyways, guys, that wraps it up. Hugo, thank you so much for joining me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, thank you very much. As you know, I consider you one of the most important plebs of the community. I have a lot of respect for you. And thank you very much for inviting me to come to the show. And let's keep talking on Twitter as usual.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, absolutely. And I really hope that things turn around for you real quick, man.